Hey traders, checking out the stock market today. We certainly got those daily lower highs very quickly. Bears in absolute complete control, something that I call an anomaly day. I'll explain what that is. And we'll look at where we stand as we are close to recent lows. All right, so in the video yesterday, I was talking about how every single day from here on out, we're going to be scouting our daily lower high, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow. And we obviously did not have to wait long. Today was an extremely bearish day. Granted, it's not as much volume as I would have anticipated. Definitely a decent volume day. But generally, when you have this kind of day, it's very high volume. And I'll talk a little bit more about that right now. So an anomaly day. For me, as a full-time trader, a normal day is what you have most often. A normal day with price action, both directions. I got my indicators, my RSI. I've got all these things that I use. And that is the standard way that I trade. When it is an anomaly day, that tells me something is unusual and the way that I normally trade should be thrown out the window because this is different. So what is different? Well, we got all of our major sectors at the low of the day at the same time. So that's a clear bear signal. We know that's something we were looking for to indicate daily consolidation was going to be underway. As far as the fundamental backdrop, Powell, bullish reaction into the all-out dump after he spoke yesterday, goes back to the FOMC, which is exactly what happened. Bullish reaction to the FOMC into the all-out dump in the following days. We had Target, which had earnings today and absolutely dumped. And a part of what the reason for the dump and the impact on the entire market was them looking at the forward-looking statements in terms of the projections for the rest of the year, and their freight costs are going to be $1 billion. And so Walmart dumping big time 2 days in a row after its earnings, cost getting dragged down with them. So essentially just a very bearish reaction to some earnings, which really just was a little push for the market to get headed towards a building of momentum that the bears then took over significantly. It didn't stand out as an unusual day for me until right here, this 20-minute period, 30-minute. Why was that different? So as I'm looking at that, on the 1-minute time frame, I'm watching this drop and saying, okay, bears are starting to accelerate to the downside. They're starting to prove some strength. But look at how long we went without touching 1-minute EMA 12 resistance. We went from 1107 and then we touched at 1135. That's a very long time. Very strong trends are still going to touch 1-minute EMA. This didn't even touch it. So that tells me it's a very, very strong trend. And you can see really it was this volume right here. Look at this, just sideways trading. And then 1116, if we want to really pinpoint it, 1116 is where the day changed for me. And I switched in my brain. Okay, it's an anomaly day. I am not looking bullish. I don't care what the RSI is. RSI doesn't mean a thing to me. I am not looking at the RSI right now because I know we're not in historical bounce ranges on longer term time frames like the daily or the 4-hour. So I don't care about the 5 and 15-minute RSI on an anomaly day. And that just told me eliminate one side of the equation. You are not looking bullish no matter what. All you're doing is looking bearish and looking to add to the bearish position or maybe take some profit and reload on a 15-minute lower high or an hourly lower high. So I didn't love the setup, the open, because it was a notably lower open. And if it was going to be an ideal setup for me as a bear, what I would have wanted to have seen was a hold of support, a bounce into an hourly lower high, and then that was the short playing off the highs of the reaction yesterday. That would have been an easy setup for bears. And obviously trading is not always easy. So that ideal setup did not come to me. And it was just weakness out of the gate and then weakness persisted. So I did end up getting NIO short after a little bit of a tug of war. I'll cover that later in the video as far as how I traded today. It was pretty much just focusing on one ticker, NIO, and of course watching the broader market, but a big win for the bears. So we look at SPY on the daily time frame. We're certainly due for an hourly oversold bounce. We know that the most likely scenario, the next bounce that we see from here is an hourly lower high. And bears are just going to be waiting for it, whether it's a higher open or whether it's a gap down open into a bounce for an hourly lower high. We know that the next time we bounce, we're scouting hourly lower highs in this market. So the daily has topped out. Our daily lower high is now set in our daily downtrend, which is our guide. I am bearish as long as we are in a daily downtrend. There's our lower high, and there's our low that we are coming from. So the fear low, we're going to call it, the lowest level we've seen on consolidation, is back in play, and it is currently 2% away, a little bit less, but we'll call it 2%. And the retracement size of this pullback is already 70%. So we were talking yesterday about, okay, well, once we top out, we're going to be looking for clues. Can the bulls set a daily high or low? Can we shape up a trend change in favor of the bulls? Some of the clues we were looking at were the dollar, the 10-year, the VIX. We're going to look at all these things. But one of the factors was, do all of our major sectors hit the low of the day at the same time? If they do, the probabilities that we can change the daily trend are going to decrease. And again, today was just a big vote of confidence for bears. It's not game over. We can still hold this support. But again, when we're talking probabilities, which is all trading is determining probabilities, the probability that we can hold this support level and change the daily trend decreased a good bit when the retracement size exceeded 50%. So as soon as we pull back more than 50% of the bounce that we saw, the daily trend change becomes a lot less likely. So we're scouting hourly lower highs as a result of the next bounce. QQQ is the same thing, daily EMA 12 rejection, lower high very clearly set. That's now our line in the sand level. And we're looking back down at the low of 284.94, which again is roughly 2.5% from where we stand. Scouting an hourly lower high to be the result of the next bounce. Let's look at the futures charts. Are we oversold? No. Well, the weekly is. So I'm paying attention to the weekly, but the daily is not. We cooled off the RSI. There are two things that will get my attention. Number one, obviously holding daily support and seeing a notable reversal, which would require a significant stand from the bulls. A bear break with no follow through into a daily bounce would get my attention just the same. Because I know I'm scouting a weekly bounce. There's just no indication it's forming on the daily time frame yet. And that goes, we know the daily's not oversold, the 4-hour, not oversold, the hourly, yeah, we're due for a bounce for sure. And we likely will see one overnight, even if it's just a bear flag, it'll cool off that RSI a little bit. But essentially, if we see the daily RSI get back to oversold, I'll start to get interested again in a bounce. It's gone pretty well. I haven't played every bounce that I've talked about, but in terms of getting the daily bounces in this bear market, it's gone fairly well. We're on top of the Ukraine dump, or I should say the buy the news scenario on top of this one. This is the one that I did see significant profit from, and then the gap down one from last week. So I'm not going to eliminate the bull side of the equation from daily charts because it's been going well. But there are certain days like today where I do eliminate one side of the equation and just complete bear glasses. That's it. And I'll put those bull glasses on, just say, okay, do I need to take some profit? Are we about to bounce? But that's about it. So SMH, daily lower high set. We got a lot more space here. Look at the retracement size. So the semiconductor is definitely stronger than the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. It's a retracement size of about 52%. So we can form a daily high or low. Absolutely, it's on the table as a possibility, but the burden of proof would be on the bulls to not only hold the low, but then turn around and break resistance. Hourly downtrend will be our guide. Like everybody else, there's a lot of space for an hourly lower high. Looks like we are bearish after hours. Yeah, we're a bit weaker in the broader market, but this could be earnings related. I'm not sure who had earnings in the semiconductor space, but we seem a little bit weaker. I guess QQQ's down $1 after hours. Either way, we're scouting an hourly lower high to be the result of the next bounce. We're going to measure retracement size for everybody. Measure that hourly retracement bounce from the high of today to wherever we bottom and start this bounce. Is it a 382 retracement that favors a bear flag? Is it a 50% retracement that creates space for a higher low? That's part of how we determine probable scenarios. Tesla, daily lower high kept intact. Topfish failed to break the high of yesterday, first thing today, and rolled over back to test the 680 low. We did hold 700 psychological. So 700 and 680 are our supports. Bulls must break 787 to prove anything. That's our new line in the sand benchmark level. As long as that is resistance, and this goes for all individual names and ETFs, as long as the daily lower high is resistance, the bears have complete control. So I'm just walking down the line. Before this bounce, before we topped out, it was back up here. Now it's here. Same thing for QQQ. We've got a new level now. It used to be up at 330, now it's down here. So XLV, daily lower high set. And can the bulls hold 125.28? That remains to be seen over the next couple of days. Hourly downtrend is our guide. Technically, we have not confirmed hourly downtrends. We just lost the hourly uptrend and fell off a cliff. So that's the next goal for the bears. Confirm an hourly downtrend. Confirm a lower high and lower low to get right to those daily support levels. Healthcare sector here has a little bit more space to work with. And again, it's a potential inverse head and shoulders. But we would need a complete turnaround reversal tomorrow into the end of the week, if that's going to be possible. Financial sector. So daily EMA 12 resistance rejection. We're testing our support of 32.99 followed by 32.41. And it's a bit less clear for me than other sectors. So again, we can go to the 2-day time frame if we want to condense it down a little bit. But clearly, bull's not going anywhere at this point as long as daily EMA 12 is resistance. IWM, daily lower high set. Again, same thing here. It's not as beat up. We can form a daily higher low. The pullback at this point is about 55% retracement. We will scout an hourly lower high, just like everybody that dropped today will scout one. Look at that volume. Some solid volume at the end of the day. But as far as everything that we've just looked at, as far as major sectors, names that have space for the daily higher low, IWM and Semiconductors, SMH, appear to have the highest probability to form a daily higher low because they have the most space to work with. So it's definitely, my probability needle drops after today, but it is still a possibility. And a green day tomorrow will keep me paying attention to that possibility. Biotech sector, same thing. Retracement's not that bad. So we bounced very significantly. We have topped out. And the pullback is 45%. So we can scout a daily higher low here as well. I would put it in the category with Semiconductors and IWM. Hourly downtrend is our guide. You can see we started the hourly bounce into the close, so that alone just shows us a very small bullish correlation. We will look for the hourly lower high, but space to work with for the daily higher low. We'll see if bulls can pull it off. So again, just mentally, we can group these sectors in different ways. Who has retraced less significantly, who has retraced more significantly. Curious what the Chinese names did. So daily consolidation underway. So again, BABA, same thing. The retracement is not too ugly. We can definitely see a potential inverse head and shoulders if we can hold the low and break the high. So I'm not ruling it out on some of these names at this point. So NIO, little trade review. So I was live streaming this morning and looking for the top fish bear entry. And so NIO has been a lead bull yesterday and this morning. So why am I looking to short a lead bull? Essentially because risk and reward to dictate my trade. So if a resistance level, the high of yesterday, is right nearby, my risk is very small. I have a level that I'm going off of. Whereas if SPY is opening at 403 and the high of the previous day is 408s or 409s, whatever it was, that's a lot of distance. I can't use the high of the day as a level to play off of. There's nothing nearby. I have to wait for something to form right out of the gate if I'm going to look for a level to play off of on names that were opening notably lower. So we had an initial rejection right from the high of yesterday, and that went well. But then we kept a bullish correlation with the broader market for this move up. And the entire time while I was live streaming, we were watching NIO divided by QQQ. And it was a very key level that had to break, and it didn't. It was this low of pre-market, and it actually held again, but it was this low. And so as the bell rang and we opened, I say, we need this low of pre-market to break to show us that NIO is losing its bullish correlation that was prevalent yesterday. and is shifting to a bearish correlation. And we held it, and then we rejected from the high of extended hours, puttered around a bit, and then we got a clear bull break. So during that point in time, I started to lose my confidence that this NIO short was going to play out, and I ended up stopping out on the new high of the day. Did go break even because I sold a little bit into the pullback, but I didn't give up on it. And I initially did. I said, well, I'm not going to look to short NIO because NIO divided by QQQ, this correlation chart, is showing us it's still a lead bull. So I gave the bears a chance. We broke resistance. But I then noticed, as did other people in the chat room, that we had rising wedges on both the correlation chart and NIO itself, which tells me that if NIO and if NIO divided by QQQ both break this rising wedge, we're going to roll over hard. We're going to accelerate to the downside. So at this point in time, I was not anticipating that the broader market was going to have an anomaly day where bears just absolutely feast. And again, what time did I say that was? 11:16 is when it started to stand out. Yep. 11:16. So at that point in time, where's NIO? We have just set the high of the day. We were just breaking the rising wedge bearish. So I was playing the rising wedge on a bear break. Unfortunately, I didn't recognize anomaly day and acceleration to the downside before I took some partial profit. Because again, if I get that bear flashing signal that tells me it's that kind of day, rather than scaling out, I'm adding and I'm going aggressive. So I had a decent sized position. I sold half of it on the bear break in my normal style. Again, treating it as if it's a normal every day. And that's my trading style and how I trade on a daily basis. But then recognizing it's an anomaly day, and I added to my short in places where I otherwise never would. You know, I was adding on the way down here as we were free falling, recognizing anomaly day. So in the end, solid day, shorting NIO. I exited for this 15-minute bounce and then re-entered using 16.13 as a stop level and obviously giving more than a penny of wiggle room. But that little reload went real well, just in terms of not wanting to give back profit, anticipating at least a couple percent bounce. Maybe it was going to be an hourly bounce and be bigger, but then recognizing the weakness before the 15-minute bear flag confirmed. So in the end, it was a laggard, and growth names. There were a handful of growth names that acted as laggards because growth names showed us strength on the morning, arc, and then just rolled over with the market. And there was a top fishing play there as well. So again, at that point in time, you have names playing off the high of the day, resistance level right nearby, and you look at QQQ at that point in time, and it was a lot more tricky. Clear 5-minute lower highs, but not really getting close to a resistance level to play off of. So those individual names that had a bullish correlation gave us the levels to play off of. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. What's the number one thing I'm looking for tomorrow? Do all of our major sectors hit the low of the day at the same time? Keep it simple. That is your flashing signal as a bear. It doesn't always result in days like this, but you will never get a day like this where that is not happening, which is why that's such an important flashing in our brain signal. And again, it's QQQ, XLV, XLF, and I keep an eye on IWM as well. But when they're all at the low of the day at the same time, make note. And when they're all at the high of the day at the same time, but obviously it's at the lows a lot more often than the highs these days. The VIX, we got that daily high or low. We knew to be watching for it. Equilibrium shaping up nice and clear. So marking our daily lower high in the broader market. Now we're scouting a daily lower high here. Anything under 35.48. Doesn't have to, but probability wise, that's the most likely scenario for me. So what would that mean? That to me would mean we're going to hold the initial test of the lows, or we're going to break them with a lack of follow through if this is going to be an equilibrium instead of lower high. So again, it's on the table. I'm not ruling out the possibility that we can see that happen. What else? Commodities, still weak, but holding on better. So that's a good sign for the bulls. All right, we're establishing some support. We're not free falling with the broader market. Must confirm a 12-hour trend change to shift some momentum and get a bounce going. Silver's holding on a lot better, but still looking for the daily high or low. Again, look at the retracement size. We got a lot of space to work with still, but we are still looking for the daily high or low. The miners are much weaker. Low of the day close, daily bear flag because of the broader market impact. Oil still holding on strong. Actually, we started daily consolidation on the inventory report. Man, I chart so many things that I can't possibly trade all the things that I chart, but drew this on the morning. Nice top fish, rollover, confirm the rising wedge, daily consolidation underway, and now we scout the daily high or low. Nat gas. If I were a futures trader, this is where I'd be making my bear entry attempt because it is a rising wedge. It already broke bear this hourly lower high. Not a convincing break. We got to break 816 and 812 to roll over. But I said in the chat room a few hours ago, if I were trading futures, this would be my attempt to look for the daily lower high on natural gas. And that's because of the rising wedge. If I had known, I hadn't looked at that oil chart in 5 hours, more than that. But had I known that oil had just confirmed a rising wedge, that would increase probabilities for me on natural gas. And again, it hasn't rolled over yet, but it would at least allow for a risk-free position at this point, making a bear entry on that lower high, even if you don't nail the top. So bears need another leg down here to start that daily consolidation. Got to break 816 and 812. Is that everything? Uranium pulling back with the broader market. Uranium is pretty much just doing what IWM is, but what's the observation here? What is glaringly hitting us in the face when we look at this chart? Well, that looks just like IWM, but it's stronger. So without even looking, we know CCJ divided by IWM had a solid green candle today. Well, maybe not, but it's green. So it's been increasing in strength comparative to IWM the last 4 days, and CCJ is in the category of names more likely to form a daily high or low than names that have retraced more significantly at this point. If the VIX is going to set a daily lower high and remain within a tightening range, we're not going to see a notable bear break with follow through on the broader market. If we are, it will be a stutter step first, meaning, again, this is the premise that we're going to form an equilibrium, which is not a sure thing. But if we do, that would mean we hold support or we bear break with zero follow through, we get another little market bounce attempt, and then we roll over into significant weakness. That's on the table as a possibility, absolutely. And the alternative would be same thing, hold support or break it with zero follow through, bounce but reject from resistance, and then bear break, broader market weekly bounces underway. So this is just one little piece of the puzzle, watching for those clues. We'll see what we get. Exciting times. Hourly trend is our guide. Bears are waiting for an hourly lower high. They know it's coming. It's just a question of where. And we'll zoom in to the shorter term time frames to determine the clues that it is shaping up or not. I appreciate you watching. I hope you had a great day out there. Make sure and do a good thing. Or two. Lots of honeysuckle. These flowers that I planted a week or so ago are now getting all established. Rhododendrons going to seed. Not the rhododendron, rhubarb. Radishes, beets. Greens have a steady supply coming in. Potatoes, I hilled them. They're nice and big. Transplanted some squash, beans, tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, basil, carrots, peas. This elderberry that I planted a couple years ago is massive. These are all going to be berries that already flowered. And behind it, these roses are now doing their thing. This milkweed is going to start flowering soon. And this is all yarrow close behind it. This is the other side of the roses.